Welcome, Jurgen. Welcome on stage.
Well, thanks for being here.
Just to make sure that everyone knows what we're talking about here. Trying to make more money from arbitrage, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so for those that didn't come to my earlier chats, I'm Jevon Coffin-Grey. I'm from Arrel. We're an institutional digital asset platform. And with me I have Jurgen Kuhnel of Xago, CEO there, or was it CMO?
CEO.
CEO.
Founder,
I don't know, but he's pretty much everything there at Xago. He runs every ship there. We go back quite a way. We've done a lot together. Formed a great friendship over the years, I like to think. So you can just give us a little introduction about yourself, Xago, and Xago's vision.
Cool. So, I am Jurgen, CEO of Xago, and we are a registered CASP in South Africa. We also have Xago Australia, which is registered with Austrac, and we issue stablecoins on the Ripple ledger. And the only cryptocurrency we really support is XRP. And the purpose of our platform is really for a long-term vision for cross-border payments.
Right. So dive into the topic that everyone wants to hear about now, huh? So Jurgen, can you briefly explain to us how cryptocurrency impacts exchange control regulations in South Africa, and why is the topic important today?
That is quite a topic. So, actually, I think maybe what we should do is first go back to why do we have exchange control in the first place. So back in the early 90s, we got exchange control because the outflow of money out of South Africa was too much, and in many African countries, they have implemented exchange control. That is really just to stop that outflow of funds.
And back then, that outflow wasn't Bitcoin, just making sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Just like, when you buy and sell any asset or any currency, when there's a lot of sell pressure, the price would go down. So in this case, if there's a lot of money flowing out of South Africa, people are selling rands for dollars or euros or pounds, and so that sell pressure is causing the rand to weaken. And so that was really the purpose, to just sort of curb that outflow. So
how does cryptocurrency impact regulations now?
So if I can just go, before we get to cryptocurrencies.
That's what we're here to hear about you. Give us your context.
Yeah, so when you looking at the externalization of funds, there's actually only two sort of licensed entities that can do that for you. First, there's your authorized dealers, which is your banks, and then your authorized dealers with limited exposure, which is, let's say, a remittance company or Mukuru, someone like that. So so that's the way that you can, I would say, legally export your funds. Every individual and business have certain allowances that they can send every year, and it is those, if you, basically all those transactions have to be reported directly to the South African Reserve Bank. Currently, and this is to your question about cryptocurrencies, there is no way to report cryptocurrencies to the South African Reserve Bank, and it's because it's not included into the Adler manual as of yet. So the framework is not there. So because of that, a bank or an Adler cannot currently report those transactions. So technically, if you are using cryptocurrencies to do a cross-border payment, you are contravening exchange control.
I understand that Xago participated in the IFWG sandbox. So why did you do this? How did this come about? And what were some of the key takeaways for both you and the regulators?
Yeah, so obviously when we founded our business, we wanted to work as closely as possible to the regulators. And the reason we wanted to work as closely as possible to the regulators is because we believe that regulation ultimately will take precedence over everything. And we can see that today as the CASP regulation comes in, and as the travel rules and everything that's coming up now, it's just, at the end of the day, you cannot avoid any of this stuff. So we always engaged with the South African Reserve Bank, and I think they believed that we had an interesting use case using crypto for cross-border transfers. So therefore, I don't know what you call it, but we were part of the IFWG sandbox. and we tested the reporting of crypto transactions. I think maybe the key takeaway to that is at that point, crypto wasn't really classified as crypto yet. What crypto was, so they actually sort of viewed it as a foreign currency at that point. So therefore, the reporting of that is quite different. I don't know if you want to go into the detail of that, but yeah.
If you want to touch on it, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So basically, when I send funds into, let's say, Absa Bank today, and I want to buy foreign currency, there's a reportable transaction. So your BOB reporting is happening when I purchase my US dollars at that point. That influences my single discretionary allowance and all that kind of jazz. So, but I haven't externalized the funds at that point. I just have US dollars. And then there's also the event where you send the funds offshore. So you send it, let's say, to your corresponding bank in the US, and that would be the non-reportable reportable transactions. That's the externalization event. So there's actually two legs to a foreign transaction report. However, if it's a crypto asset or seen as a financial instrument, the reporting looks slightly different, because buying the financial instrument locally doesn't actually affect your allowances, but only then when you externalize that financial asset is when it influences your allowances. So now there's only one report versus two. So when we were in the sandbox, they were still very much thinking along the Forex sort of approach, and that has changed since. Not a problem specifically. They need to decide what they want to do, but that is the way they see it currently, as far as I understand.
Okay, so just before we maybe get onto more of the implementation side of it, you did mention CASP. So I just want to understand, what's the difference between a CASP and an authorized CASP?
So there's actually three main regulators in South Africa. There's the FIC, FSCA, and then there will be FinServ for the authorized CASP. So the FIC makes you an accountable institution. That's really for anti-money laundering, scams, all that kind of stuff. Make sure that everything is in place. Then the FSCA is you become a FSP, a financial service provider. How do you conduct your business? All that stuff. And this is where we are now. And then the third leg, which is coming up now, will be the authorized CASP. And that's effectively where a crypto asset service provider has roughly the same, or I don't even say, we probably won't even have the same, but have the ability to report to the South African Reserve Bank the externalization event of crypto.
And with it, let's maybe just touch on how we expect that to happen. So at what point then is cryptocurrency considered externalized? So if I send funds from Bala to an international exchange, is that considered externalized? And are there any, corner cases?
So I can only go by what I understand and from our interaction with the Reserve Bank, and until the framework is out there, that will be then I suppose the final. But this is the way I understand it. When we were in the sandbox, the externalization event was when you go into crypto. So it was by just the mere fact that you are buying this crypto asset.
So as you make the conversion.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you're going to Valar, you're buying your Bitcoin, and at that moment you externalized. And then when you send the crypto off the exchange, that would be the externalization event. So that would be the second report. They have now changed this. And so by buying and selling your crypto actually is a non-event. It's not a externalization event at all. And only when you send the crypto off Valar, let's say to Coinbase, it is that moment where it would be a reportable transaction.
And then are there particular businesses or licenses that would allow that company to do that? So Valar will have to have a certain licensing to be able to do that. And then is it the fact that if Valar sends to a non-custodial wallet, is that also considered an externalization?
Yeah. So to your point, so there's the accountable institution, which is the FIC, then it's the CASP to become an FSP, and then the third step would be to become an authorized CASP. So, I don't know how many financial services providers are out there, like 300 or 350, but there will be only a few authorized CASPs really, because not everybody would require that. For example, if you're a custodian like Luno, Valar, Xago, or altcoin trader, those would naturally become the authorized CASPs. So that would be additional scrutiny and applications in order to get there, and I would assume there would be some unencumbered funds that you would need to set up for that, and some insurances. So and that would be sort of mirror roughly how the Adler licensing works today, where for example, a bureau de change can only do 15,000 rand, I think, or 25,000 rand in cash payments, but they can't do anything other than that. So they have a small unencumbered funds that they need to put in, and then you get Adler 2, Adler 3, Adler 4, and so it carries on. So there would be certain, I would assume there would be certain levels that we'll have to see how that looks like.
Okay. And then also on the points of the non-custodial wallets, that's an externalization of funds, and at the points of that is when it comes to my allowance, because I understand that my allowances are rand based, right? Now I'm externalizing cryptocurrency. Is it the price of the crypto at the time I do the transfer, or some sort of base cost associated with that?
So before I get to that, so let's get first to the non-custodial wallet, because once there's an authorized CASP, and you've got, let's say there's 10 authorized CASPs in South Africa, if you send funds in between the CASPs, that won't be seen as an externalization event. So if I send from Xago to Valar, that wouldn't be a problem at all. So you can kind of do whatever much trading it is that you're required to do. If you send the funds from, let's say, Valar to Coinbase, that's the externalization event. So it's really just if you send it off a locally registered CASP to a foreign CASP, that would be your externalization event. That means if you send it to a non-custodial wallet, that would also be seen as a externalization event.
Okay. Understood. And the value that comes off your allowance? That's where my one question was just that, is that the price that I paid for the Bitcoin, or the value of the Bitcoin at the time?
It would be the value of the externalization moment.
Okay. So that's an interesting one to try get around, because if I have a million SDA, so I take $1 million rand, not that I have $1 million rand flying around, and I go and buy Bitcoin and then I send it off. But if Bitcoin goes up by 5% just before I send it off, have I now contributing exchange control?
I think so, and this is the thing. So this is where they wanted to use it as a foreign currency earlier, because if you bought the $1 million rand with a Bitcoin to 2 million rand, you only externalize that. It's fine that you externalize more money, but your single discretion allowance was only. So it's a complicated topic that they have to deal with, and that's the route that they try to take. But it's. I think you should look at it the same way as you look at, let's say, for a Kruger Rand. Like I go and I buy a Kruger Rand. That's not an externalization event. You can buy as many Kruger Rands you like. But if I put the Kruger Rand in my talk bag and I go onto the plane over to the UK, that is an externalization event. So I have to declare that I've taken that thing off, over the border.
Okay, and at that point, they're using the value of the Kruger Rand at the point that you
at that point in time.
All right. And do you have any estimates around the timeframes for these authorized?
I personally don't. I just think if we look at how the last sort of how the since the FSCA put their notices out, it took about 1.5 years for all the CASPs to get registered. I think there will be some notices coming out very soon in the next month or two. And then maybe 1.5 years before the first authorized CASPs are out there.
And what about stable coins? For those that are crypto first, there was a lot of talk about rand-based stable coins. Because it's a rand-based, is that exempt from exchange control, or what's the thinking there?
Well, it actually wouldn't. It would be the same as buying crypto. So using a rand-based stable coins and sitting in your local CASP would be fine, because it's the same as just buying Bitcoin and sending it around to the local CASPs. And I think they also try to do that, for local payment systems like, a Money Badger that needs to receive crypto payments at Pick and Pay. It all stays within a sort of the local ecosystem. So, but stable coins really, in essence, depends. It gets actually quite quite convoluted because, for example, who's your custody service? If your custody service is a non-registered South African CASP and you are using that custody service, would that be seen as an externalization event? I don't know. Those are things that they would have to tell us. So it's always difficult because I think there's a lot of things that they might not have thought about, but I think they have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, if we're, myself holding Bitcoin and Ethereum, I want to use it. I want to go to Pick and pay for it. Now, if I take it off Valor, my own non-custodial wallet, because I have the intention of buying things in South Africa at grocery stores, I have the concern that I'm actually externalizing those funds just to make grocery payments. So I'm very interested to see where they go with that. So coming back to Xago, how does the regulation benefit a company like yours?
Well, for us, because we want to work with financial institutions. So because of that, the regulation is absolutely working for us completely. So all the foreign entities or FSPs, they take us a little bit more seriously. They understand that things are a little bit more in place. It's not just some cowboy show behind the scenes. I want to say that I think she wants us to finish.
Oh yeah, we're closing up here then. Okay. But there's one really important point that we need to touch on. Is quickly the FATF travel rules. Can you explain the FATF travel rules and the importance for South Africa?
I was hoping we were going to skip that one. The director. Hey, sorry.
She tried to save you, but you have to not talk about the FATF.
Okay, I'll be very quick. So the travel rules are just coming in now on the 25th of April. And all the exchanges would have to comply with that. It's going to be quite a cumbersome process to make sure that all the information is shared between the exchanges so that those transactions are compliant.
Okay, and a brief overview of what's required there?
So, the sender exchange would have to obviously validate all the KYC information and the source funds, where the receiver exchange, then in this case, would not have to validate it, but it would have to be able to receive that information. So, for example, if a user sends funds from Coinbase to Xago would need to somehow receive the information from Coinbase. We don't have to validate it, but we would have to actually receive it from Coinbase. So it's just quite a difficult problem to solve, but I can understand why they want to do it, but it's going to be difficult.
Okay. Thanks, Jurgen, for enlightening us today. Do you want to have any closing remarks before we get kicked off the stage?
No, absolutely. But thanks for listening.
Feel free to come chat to us after if you've got any questions. Jurgen's a wealth of knowledge. Been around the industry a long time. But Jurgen, thanks very much. Appreciate your insight as always.
Thank you. Okay. All right.